Hey guys, what's up? Doing another one. Um, I really need to get a new camera. I know this one's really fuzzy, but funds and all. Anyway, let me get on with this. Um, this is kind of an old video. I mean, I'm recording this now. It's new in the fact that I'm recording this right now. It's the 29th of June of 2011, but I actually made a video about this topic before several months back. I just never put it up. I could put that old video up, but I kind of didn't like how it went. There were a couple of points I missed, and I thought I could explain a few things better. Plus, I was doing it while I was walking, and the camera's moving up and down and stuff, so I figured I could just redo it this way. You might remember I said before that I did videos that were kind of topical to an issue at the time. This is one of those, but at the same time, I still think it's kind of relevant. I think I could at least be entertaining, I think, for you guys. Because it's another one of those games that they play type things that I like to talk about. You know how like they'll take a little bit of a fact and then just twist it and completely F with you? Yeah, that's the sort of thing that I'm bringing up with this. So here we go. Now, granted, part of this is going to be a bit from memory. After I'm done with this video, I'll try to see if I can hunt down the thing I'm about to discuss so that you guys can see it for yourselves. But this is about a commercial that I had seen months back. I think around February or so. They played it a couple of times on CNN back when I had no choice but to watch it in the mornings. I normally don't like watching. If I can help it, I do not watch TV or especially not CNN. I don't care how much they're advertising that they're the best in news. They're not. They're much better sources to get your information from. But I remember that this commercial they used to play. I don't know if they play this commercial anymore. Again, I don't watch TV. They might still be playing it, but I doubt it. But for a while, this commercial was being played, and it was done by, what was the name of this group? I think they called themselves the Council Against Government Waste. You guys can look that up online. It was one of those conservative propaganda pieces, and boy, were they really good at spreading the bullshit with this one. This one's really good. In a really subtle way. I mean, they were bombastic in some ways, but in other ways, the trick that they pull on you is kind of subtle, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, some of you guys probably already know what commercial I'm talking about, but let me get on with it. It's one where it's supposed to take place in the future. It's the year 2030, I think. And it's like, the commercial's not black and white. Normally you know you're dealing with a propaganda piece when the commercial's all black and white and they got like this grim music playing. Here it's not black and white, it's just washed out. But it still has these dark tones to it, so you can tell something sinister is possibly going on. And it's actually more of it's a lecture hall. You see this guy walking up and he's lecturing to what I can assume are a group of students. But the interesting thing about this is that these are all Chinese. This is supposed to be some type of Chinese lecture class that's going on, and a guy's supposedly talking about American history. And I don't remember the exact words he said, but it went along the lines of them talking about what caused so-called great nations to fail. And he brings up nations like Rome and Great Britain and, of course, the United States. And he says, what is, all these things, all these nations had fallen, and they all made a major mistake. They all, I don't remember, they all turned their backs on the principles that made their nations great. Like, so apparently there were certain principles that the country was founded upon that they turned their backs on, and that's what made the nations crumble. The lecturer then goes on to state that the United States did a whole lot of things like overspending and going past their debts. And, they spent beyond their means. They got themselves extremely huge in debt, and it was stimulus bills and healthcare reform and all these stimulus packages that caused them to fall, and overspending on Medicare and all these type of things, these social programs. And it made them further and further into debt. But China, of course, bought that debt, and the commercial ends with the guy going, and they work for us now. And all the students in there are laughing, And, you know, and it's supposed to be the sinister thing of, oh my God, this is our future. They're going to own us. We need to do something about this. This doesn't have to be our future. And I know a lot of people bought into that commercial because I think the commercial is actually older than when I saw it. I personally didn't see it until around February or so of this year. But supposedly it came out like last year, but it was banned for a while. I guess they stopped the ban or something because, again, I remember seeing it earlier this year, but I digress. There's a good deal of bullshit being spun with this commercial, and it's done in a nice, subtle way. I mean, the most bombastic thing is obviously the way they present it. And by the way, just discussing how they're taking an entire group of people and villainizing them like this is a subject in its own right. You know, like all the Chinese are in, or, you know, they got it in for us. You know, that usual bullshit that we've heard for years now. Again, that's a topic for another time. You know, the usual xenophobia you see in this country. But I want to talk about the subtle shit that they throw here. They say that America fell because of overspending and stimulus. Spending on stimulus packages and overspending on social programs and healthcare reforms and things like that. But they're tying America in with other great nations such as Rome and Britain. And before, remember, they said that they had fallen because of falling back on the principles that made these countries great, and then they immediately go to talk about America's overspending. So it's sort of subtly suggesting to the viewer that the reason why all these nations fell was because of massive crushing debt and overspending on these types of programs when they shouldn't. And obviously not spending these type of things is one of the things that makes nations great. Which is bullshit. It's a nice subtle way to tie it in. It's a way of giving you bullshit without outright saying the bullshit. That way, if you catch them on it and say, you know, you said this, we never said that, but you implied it. See, the reason why that's so important is because if you look at history, if you look at these other ancient great civilizations, yeah, there is one interesting thing they have in common about being hit with massive debt and spending beyond their means. You do see this with a lot of big empires and so-called great civilizations in history as one of the factors for their so-called decline. But here's the funny part. They didn't have things like massive healthcare reforms and stimulus bills and social programs to spend that money on. That's not what got them into debt. And that's not what got us into the debt we have now. We already had massive debt before those bills were passed. Yeah, those bills are, you know, the stimulus package bills, you know, how they took extra tax money from people. Yeah, I understand the grievances there. But Americans seem to have the memory of a goldfish. They seem to have forgotten that we already were having massive debt way before this shit. It was caused by something else. And it was the same thing that caused all these other so-called great nations to have financial problems too. It wasn't social programs. There was no such thing as socialist movements or social programs way back in those time periods. But there was war. And there was military expenditure that went far beyond the means of the country itself. Let's look at a somewhat recent example. They did mention Great Britain. At one time, Britain was a huge empire in the world. Big deal. But the reason why was because of military expenditures and military, campaigns that they were spreading in major parts of the world. They finished having a war with Spain and effing with them with pirates and increasing their armada so that now we rule the seas and we can do what we want. And then they were having wars with France, and they were even having wars in lands that weren't even in Europe, fighting against France for extra territory and to take this stuff. And this shit costs money. It's expensive. You can't keep wars going on like this without having to pay somebody something. They owed a lot of money. A lot of money. They were a lot of debt. By the time it was the end of the French and Indian War, they're like, shit, we're broke. We gotta start paying for this stuff. What the fuck are we gonna do? We ain't got no money. What are we gonna do? Then they remembered, whoa, wait a minute. Don't we got those colonies over there? How we just fought the war in those freaking colonies in the first fucking place? Shouldn't we be getting revenue from them? I mean, that's what we got them for, you know, to help fill our coffers. They're supposed to be getting resources and extra shit for our finances. Let's use them. It's just that the businessmen who were living in those colonies didn't like that. They didn't like having their exports being taxed. That's what the whole tax shit was about. They didn't like their businesses being taxed, so they started a war over it. Now here we are in America, and that shit. I mean, hell, the trials and the pains of having an extended military over so wide an area for so freaking long helped make England lose a major source of resources, and it ended up being its own country. I mean, that's how dramatic shit got with their debt. This country was basically founded because of someone else's debt and someone else not wanting to pay that bill, which is why it's cracking me up that despite the fact that this country was founded on such an event happening, you have people here who haven't learned that lesson, that you cannot stay with military action for a long fucking period of time. And we've been militarized since, since the fucking 50s. You can't keep this shit going on for long. People knew about this thousands of years ago. The fucking art of war even states that if you're going to be going to war, it better be for a damn good reason, and you better not be waging it for a long period of time, because it's going to be a major drain on the nation itself. Someone's got to feed the soldiers. Somebody's got to outfit them. And people need to build the weapons and the armor and the stuff that they need in order to wage their campaigns. That's money that's being leached from your nation itself. Money that's supposed to be going toward education, infrastructure, making sure your people are smart, making sure that they're healthy, and making sure that they'll be able to take over when it's time for the next generation of people to run the country and to make sure people are fed and to make sure the country is still staying on top of things. That's where the money should be going. You cannot have a strong nation filled with weak people. And I mean not just weak in body, but weak of mind as well. That's how you fall. Smart people understand this. Most people don't. The commercial never mentions shit like that. No. The reason why we have massive crushing debt is because of, stimulus packages and going against, the principles that made us great. Funny thing about that, the principles supposedly this country was founded upon, well, besides, let's be honest, business greed, was supposed to be the concepts of individuality and, the individual having a say over absolute power. These days, it's like we've been thinking anything but. So maybe that commercial has a point in that aspect, but once again, it's a conservative propaganda commercial. I doubt any of those people would like it if somebody pointed out that, hey, the principle this country was founded upon was principles that were founded during the Enlightenment period. The belief that the masses shouldn't have to instantly bow down to absolute authority. That includes certain political dogmatism. That includes religious dogmatism. You need to get rid of that type of shit. I'm sure they don't want to hear that. So yeah, when you talk about bullshit, I mean, this commercial really did a good job, I think, of just really did a good freaking job of just spreading their propaganda that way and just pulling the wool over people's eyes. And the sad thing was, I remember when I first saw this commercial, I was thinking to myself, I can't believe these assholes are insulting my intelligence like this. I know history. I know the way you guys are trying to describe this, making it look like the main reason why we get into debt is because of social programs and stimulus bills. I know that's bullshit. I know the main reason why we're having such massive debt problems. But Americans don't have memories, and I guess thanks to the way they've been fucking up education in this country for so long, they don't even have a real sense of history anymore either. And I know there's certain places like over in Texas, for instance, with the way they're fucking up their textbooks, they're making sure people won't have a good view of history anymore. So it'll be it's already extremely easy for idiots to fall for shit like this. And they're making sure that they're going to fall for it for a long period of time. And that's scary. That's extremely scary, because pretty soon, if somebody's going around pointing this shit out, hardly anyone's going to believe them, even though they're right. We're already seeing plenty of examples of people going around pointing out the type of crap that pundits say these days, or government officials say these days, or politicians or whatever, and no one will believe you because the stuff that the crap that these other idiots are saying sounds pleasing to the masses. So you're fucked. Like propaganda like this. I know this commercial got a lot of support from a whole lot of people. Yeah, the fucking Chinese. It's pathetic. I'm gonna ramble long enough on that. Catch you guys later.